So after finishing quite a big project with my latest animation, Spaceman, I wanted to try something a little bit smaller, a little bit more relaxed this time. This may or may not have gone to plan. So what are we going to be up to today? So I've taken the small theme very literally, and we're going to be making some lovely miniatures today, and I'm going to be making some miniature crockery and cutlery. So let's get to it. I didn't need tons of equipment for this. I used some greaseproof paper or parchment paper on the table just so I didn't end up covering the whole table in clay. I had some air dry clay which turned out to be foam clay. Never used that before. Quite an interesting experience, but stay tuned for how that worked out. And then some clay tools. I didn't use the tools that much. I did mainly use my hands. So if you're trying to use clay and you haven't got any tools, like fear not, you can do quite a lot just using your hands. And if in doubt, just use like old utensils, bits of tools and things like that. That can just work. I would just say, safety warning, if you are going to use utensils, please use old ones that are designated for crafting. Don't use your regular utensils and then end up trying to eat like pasta and getting clay in your mouth. You don't want that, guys. So I started this off really simply and made some plates. This was super simple. I just took a small piece of clay, rolled that into a ball, and then flattened the ball basically into a very simple plate. I wasn't going with anything complicated here. I don't think there's any need to complicate it. On such a small scale, it's really difficult to get fine details unless you really know what you're doing, and quite frankly, I do not know what I'm doing. So I think this worked quite well. I then made 3 more, so we had a set of 4. You know, in case my puppet decides to have friends over for, you know, an impromptu dinner party. Now, I will say some of these pottery items that I make do look quite rustic, but I would say there's nothing wrong with rustic, because rustic is cute, it's handmade. Like if you think about going to buy crockery yourself, if you went and bought a bunch of very boring, plain white crockery that all looked uniform and beautiful from a shop, that would be super cheap, wouldn't it? Like the stuff you can buy in like the most basic sort of Poundland type places. If you want a cute wonky looking pottery bowl that's like a bit discoloured and a bit weird, you'd have to go to Etsy and spend a lot of fortune, wouldn't you? So I think rustic is the way to go, guys. It's gonna look more expensive. This is what I'm telling myself. I then decided to experiment a bit. I mixed some blue and white clay and got this really cool marble effect. I think if you mixed it too much, you would obviously just end up with a light blue clay, but sort of mixing it a moderate amount, you end up with a really cool marble effect. I'm really happy with how this worked out, as it really was just an experiment. I then shaped that into sort of pasta bowls. Again, I just used my fingers. This really wasn't very difficult to do. I just got a small piece of clay again, the clay that I'd marbled this time, and rolled it into a ball, and then I worked my fingers into the middle and shaped it into a sort of bowl shape. I really didn't know what I was doing with this, as I've said, but I'm pretty happy with the result, and I ended up making a set of 4 of those as well, so you know, a full set. I then attempted to make a cup. This didn't go quite so well. I did mix white and red clay. Again, I was trying to go with that marbled effect that I really like. I tried for a while shaping this with my fingers. This really wasn't working, so I tried using my tools, but just the foam clay really wasn't cooperating, so I just decided to go a completely different way and decided to make a small bowl. So I started with a small ball of clay here, and then I've used a metal tool to shape the bowl. I then smoothed that out with my fingers, and I have something I think that looks a decent amount like a bowl. Again, I made a set of 4, and that was all my crockery completed. I just had to leave it overnight. So here we have the plate, which just looks like a plate, just a disc, nothing too exciting there. I'm really amazed by how this foam clay like sets. I don't know why I was assuming it wouldn't feel like foam, but it just feels like a piece of foam. It's wild. Then the little bowls, I don't really know quite what you'd put in them. They are very tiny, but I think they're cute. And then these kind of pasta-y bowls, I think they're really cute. I'm really happy with how this like two-toned effect worked out. I then realised we were going to need cutlery because like, we're not animals, we're not going to be eating this with our hands. I had quite a chaotic time with this. I started out by making these wire cutlery items, but I was a bit worried because with the spoons, there was the bowl of the spoon was just a hole, which like, you're gonna lifting your food up and it's gonna be falling through the hole, which just, you're not gonna get very full with, are you? not helpful at all. So I tried to fill that in with clay and that just looked a bit disjointed and weird. And then I thought, well, maybe I could make some spoons just out of clay, and the foam clay really wasn't the tool for the job with this. They were weird bendy spoons, which they just looked really odd. So I just went back to the wire ones and thought, what can I use to fill this hole up? And then it struck me, tin foil. So I got a really tiny bit of tin foil and then just wrapped that around the hole, and I think that looks quite like a spoon. I then made some forks. I'm going to shape the little prongs. At first I think we're going to go with 3 prongs. So just going to go up, down, up and down. Make those little prongs there. Squish them together. And then with these 2 end bits, I'm just going to spiral them together. And then I'm just going to cut the excess off. I'm just going to flay these prongs out a little bit. And I think that looks quite fork-like. They do look quite trident adjacent, to be honest, when I finished. But to be honest, I'm really not bad about that because, like, who doesn't want to pretend there's some sort of sea god? Because, you know, why not have some fun, guys? The world is on fire. You may as well just enjoy yourselves. I then realised we had nowhere to eat. Now, they could have obviously had some sort of a picnic or something, which probably would have been super cute, but I took it upon myself to make a table. So I got a chunk of wood and measured that up, and then cut out the tabletop and 4 legs. And then I hammered that together with some nails, and it got quite chaotic, guys. Apologies to anyone living nearby because I made quite a lot of noise. But in the end, I thought the table looked pretty cute. I was going to leave it how it was. I did like the idea of the cute sort of picnic in the forest vibe, but I also wanted them to be sat at a table. I think it's going to be easier to animate when I choose to use this in an animation. Anyway, I went and raided my craft stash and I found this fabric which looks quite picnic blanket-esque. I cut out a basic pattern and then sewed that up along the corners and then hemmed the bottom. And then it was time to dress the table. And I think it looks really cute with this little tablecloth on. It also does cover up the top area where there was some quite big dents from me hammering the nails in. Now it was time to lay the table for dinner. But we have no guests, so let's see what it looks like with a puppet. And oh my gosh, she looks so cute. I mean, I'm always just like so excited by my little stop motion puppets. They're like my children because like I can't do with actual children. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this project's turned out. I think it looks really cute. I'm not sure what animation I want to use these props in at the moment. I just thought I'd make them and then we'll come up with a plan later. But before I do use them in an animation, I'm probably going to need some food because as it stands, this is quite a dismal dinner party. So in an upcoming episode, I will be trying to make some tiny food to go along with the tiny crockery and cutlery. So now I'm going to go away and try and work out how to make some tiny food. I will be back again in 2 weeks. I do post videos every second Sunday, so do make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date about all things animation. And I will see you all again really soon. Bye!